behalf of all of Will's family and friends, for those of you who know me, you know who I am. For the rest of you, I'm Larry Grossman. It's an honor to be here this evening. I'm not going to speak a whole lot tonight. We would prefer that family and friends come and speak about all the great memories and positive influences that Will had on everybody. It's unfortunate we're here to gather in these circumstances, but it's also time to start celebrating a life well lived. With that, I am going to do a reading. I'm not sure how many of you know Devin Ballett. He's a very good friend of mine. He's a photojournalist. He takes amazing photographs of people on mountain bikes. Has had many of his photos published in Mountain Flyer and other publications. He wrote an astounding piece just 3 days ago about Will, and I'm going to read that. We will invite family up first to speak out here if you would like, and then friends as well. There'll also be time for that once we go back to the third floor over at Eagle's Nest and continue our celebration tonight. Losing a friend I never had. This past weekend, the mountain bike community lost a good man. I don't know Will Olson personally, but that will never matter. Will was just like me. Just like all the great friends I have. Will loved to ride his mountain bike, and he was good at it, really good. The tragic events really started to hit home when I realized I had captured a shot of Will last year on the very trail that took his life. To this day, I can remember him flying by, smashing through a creek crossing that seemed to give racers trouble. He made it look like a puddle with the ease he crossed it. His speed and control looked like a monster truck blowing up a mud hole with hundreds of horsepower behind it. Throwing mud and water into the air as though a stick of dynamite blew up as he passed by. I let out the loudest yell of excitement. I loved seeing racers excel. Will was your average Colorado mountain boy. He loved riding bikes and snowboarding, and he was talented at both. He camped at the races, sleeping in the dirt, just like I do. The more I learn about Will, the more I realize this was my friend. We have shared cheers, I'm sure of it. I've cheered him on down the mountain and gave well wishes at the top. There is no doubt about that in my mind. The days following our loss of Will's physical self, the rains have hardly let up. I like to think it is Mother Nature washing herself of what happened. A fresh start and a better appreciation for what we have. Going to sleep to the sound of gentle raindrops pinging off the metal roof of my van home. Laying there, I think of how crazy this thing called life really is. No one thinks that we might die as we roll up to the start line of a bike race. I like to think Will was having a spectacular race run, that his mind was full of joy and excitement for being on his bike and racing in the mountains with his friends. To be so lucky to leave this world under such terms. Will was doing what he loved when he died. I hope for something so amazing as that. It doesn't make the pain stop or make the tears not fall, but it does make my heart smile. I have always been proud in how I appreciate life, how I so often will stop to smell the flowers or to just look. These events have further reinforced this idea. Life is short, and there are no guarantees. That thing you have always wanted to do, but keep putting it off, waiting for the right time, go for it. There is never a better time than right now. Wake up feeling grateful for another day, right here on Earth. Every day is a gift, and there is no way of knowing when that gift will end. Hug your family. Hug your friends. Tell them you appreciate your relationship. Laugh. Live with intention. Be grateful for what you have, for what you can do. Continue to learn. Do what you love. Say hello to a stranger. You may just gain a friend. Losing a friend I never made has made me really appreciate the friends that I have made. There will always be events in life that don't make sense, that hurt like hell. At the end of the day, life is amazing. Every last good and bad event or feeling. With that, I would love to invite family first, please. Who would like to come up and speak? Please introduce yourself to the crowd. I'm sorry I don't know all of you. My warmest and best thoughts to the family and friends of Will. It's a tough day, and please introduce yourself and let's celebrate.
I'm Will's mom, and if I didn't do this first, I know I wouldn't be able to do it. And so, life, the world is a beautiful world, but it's a hard one. And right now it's a hard one. But I have no regrets because I had 3 wonderful boys that have loved each other. That was my prayer from the beginning, that they would love each other and be friends, and they have done that very, very faithfully all throughout, and they just have been such good people. And Willie, that's Willie to me. I always called him Willie, and he got really mad at me because I would call him Willie. But I said, Mom, I'm your mom, and I'm going to call you that. And so, he was called William because there was a wonderful man from the church we went to, and he was just amazing, and so his name was William because of that man. Dean was because of a friend of my former husband's, and he was just an asshole. Sorry, but he was a good man, and he was wonderful to my sons. And so we named him Dean, and Will followed Dean's way in that Dean bought his wife a fishing pole and a reel, some kind of a fly fishing reel. She wanted a ring, and she thought she was going to get a ring, but that's what she got. And Will's kind of been following that with some special things for Bonnie, so hang in there. And he was shy when he was little. I kept on saying, go. We'd go to Disneyland and he'd be hanging on my skirt. And I'd say, go be adventuresome. And when he'd crawl across a log, he could barely do it. The other kids would be climbing all over and doing things. And he was just not doing that. And then he turned into a really different person in 7th and 8th grade when you go to that stage. And he was running away, and he was being adventuresome with his friends. And Jim Mortensen, you know him? He was a part of that. And the parents would get together and kind of talk to say, where are your kids now, and where are they, and how are they? And they were fine, but they just weren't telling parents where they were going and stuff. So he did that. Had a hard time in high school. My former husband got him into get his, get his GED, and struggled with that. He ended up going to the Marines early. He wasn't even 18 yet. Learned a lot about himself in the Marines and came home ready for bear. And Jim and him and all the guys have been ever since ready for bear, and you know the rest of the story.
Well, I didn't know that Carolyn was going to really take center stage here. But just one correction, Willie, well, it's Willie. When he was 17, I gave him a couple of choices, and I think Jimmy and Jack and a few of you know the choices I gave him. And but they wouldn't let him in the Marines if he didn't have his high school diploma. So Will and I went to Portland Community College. I don't know how old I was, but I took him there because I didn't trust him for coming home or going to class. So I took 4 more classes at community college with Will, so he could actually graduate with a regular state of Oregon diploma. And then the next year he was back from the Marines, and they were gracious enough at the high school to have him go on their senior time. But everything that Carolyn was saying, Will and some of his friends who are sitting in here. In fact, I'm just going to say something. All of us, you're all his friends. And I was going to make my talk 20 seconds, you know, but my goodness. So I want to thank every single one of you for being Will's friend. I want to thank everybody who helped him on the mountain after the crash. Wow. No, I'm sorry. But you know, I looked down and I talked to Brandon, the race director, and he says, I can't come today, Gary. He says, I don't do funerals, I don't do welcoming. And, but he says, I loved your son. And he says, so we're gonna meet with him tomorrow. I just want to thank everybody that worked on that rescue. Will had a passion, he was doing what he loved to do. And, you know, I look at his great friends up here and I mean, I just love them. You know, part of them came from Scappoose, so part of them played baseball. You know, there's Jack. And the amazing thing today that his brothers found was his 2 baseball gloves, and I was shocked that he had kept those 2 baseball gloves. Pretty emotional for the brothers, for his mother. But again, I'll cut mine short, but I just want to thank everybody. You're all special. This is a special place to live. It took a special, special woman to get him to think he was going to move out of this. That's fine. I'll introduce. This is my oldest son. This is Will's older brother.
Good afternoon. The first thing I'd like to do is do something that Willie hated. Take your picture. He absolutely would. My wife is not here today, and I'm really sad for that, but at the same time, she loved the hell out of Will, and as did we all. I was touched by tragedy a couple years ago, and I couldn't get up to speak to a really good friend, and it's because I didn't write it out, so I wrote it out today. And I hope that this allows me to pull through. Willie, my brother, my friend. Willie, the middle brother. Willie, as my mom said, the troubled brother. Willie, one of the 2 greatest brothers a brother could ever ask for and could ever have. The Scappoose crew here knew him as Willie, and have loved seeing him grow to be Will the Thrill. I kind of tossed in the towel trying to hang out with Will the Thrill. I knew he was going to be a lot better than me, and I couldn't hang. He was nice enough to have a lot of patience with his brothers and, you know, teach me how to snowboard. It's actually, I'm going to make this a long story. So I came back from the Navy, and I used to ski, as did Willie. I don't know if he let you guys know that. I came back from the Navy, and I was ready to, you know, it was winter time. I'm ready to go ski. He's like, that's soldier skis. I'm like, what? Yeah, I wasn't very happy about that, right? I mean, we had a kind of contentious relationship for a little while. He's like, if he upset me, you know, he get a little head noogie. If he upset, you know, John, I'd give him a little head noogie. You know, he couldn't win. He couldn't win, but we know that's not the truth. He is a winner. Let's see, sorry. As I said, he and I didn't always see eye to eye. That was really only like the high school years, middle school, high school. It was really, you know, it was difficult. But we always pulled through, and we always had each other's back, and we always respected each other and loved each other. And there wasn't a single time in our lives that we weren't there for each other. We pushed each other in a lot of different ways. One of being the best men that we can, and I would always compare myself to Will, to John, and I really think that our parents were amazing parents and absolutely did a great job. And I really don't understand why each of us, Will, or myself, Will, and John, embarrassed them at different times. You know, we each had our little run-ins, and you know, nothing serious, but you know, we said hello to the police officer a time or two. You know, I'd also like to tell you, I was talking with my dad when we got down here. One of the things I said, and my dad said the same thing, is Will was a cat with 9 lives, and I think one of the first lives that he lost was in high school. It's 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm getting shook up. Fred, I need some help. Well, we need to get in the car and go get your motorcycle. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's down on the dike. I ran through a barbed wire fence. Somebody was chasing me, and yeah, we just got to go down to get it. And it's like I said, I had his back. I don't think I told that story until many years, until it's safe. We always were careful about that. And just my love and respect for Will really knows no bounds. He was a great brother, and let's see. See, I was doing things without having to read it. All right. Another thing too, and I'm sure it's common, just like the pictures. Will suffered no fools, and he was, his patience grew so much throughout his life. I know I pushed him a lot of different times. There's different times throughout life I was doing things that he didn't really like, but that didn't really change, who we were to each other, and he may not have liked it. I remember wearing, some clothes. He's like, "You poser," and I'm like, "Come on," I like the hat, And another time too, he was talking about just recently the people with beards, and all the work that they put in their beards, and here I am with my mustache, I was so proud of, but that didn't keep us from hugging and loving each other. So I loved how he told it straight, and always did that. So I want to talk about Uncle Willie. The last thing I want to talk about is Uncle Willie was amazing. That guy would, I have 2 children, a 6-year-old and a girl, and a 3-year-old. And for the last 5 years, I've been teaching overseas, and so I don't get to see Will or John or my parents very much. But when I do, Willie would come in. Just a second, and I'm not leaving John out, but Will would come in and just drop everything and just be with us. He's fast. We know that, and we're slow. Families, we're slow. And so he's sitting there and he's just like, but he never said anything. And he loved on the kids. Just the first thing we did, the first time that we saw Uncle Willie this year, my little daughter just started running and jumped into his arms, and that was after I was trying to turn her, like, "Uncle Willie, come on down," and she wasn't turned by that. She knew who Uncle Willie was, and she loved him, so dearly. As do Kellen and Elias. They're just amazing. He's an amazing uncle. And we would wrestle. And we've got this. Bonnie took an amazing picture of him reading to all the kids. I don't know if we could do that in high school, but he learned to read. What I hate most is that my 2 children and all the rest of us aren't going to have any more stories for Will or of Will. We'll tell stories, and that's what I plan to do for the rest of my life. Is tell stories about Uncle Willie and my brother Willie. Rest in peace, brother.
Bless, brother.
Hi guys, my name's John. Will says that he saved my life. If my mom and dad had a girl, if Will had been a girl, I would not be here, so. Alright, so this has been the worst experience I've ever had. I've never felt so much pain, so much heartache, so much loss. I go to bed thinking of Will, wake up thinking of him, and cry all day long. It hurts so bad. So how can I say goodbye to our uncle, to our friend, our brother, our soulmate, our son? As an uncle, Will was amazing, just like Fred said. He played Legos, built train sets, chased and wrestled, and of course bought the little Strider bikes for our kids with helmets. Trying to get our kids riding at an early age. He made a point to come visit us in Washington at least a couple times a year. As a friend, I've heard so many fun stories of experience that Will has shared with you all. His friends were his family. And I'm so glad to hear how he was loved, what he got to experience here in Vail and everywhere else with so many people. As a brother, Will was spectacular. He was giving, loving, caring, adventurous, you name it. Growing up, Fred, Will, and I were the best of friends and at times great enemies too. Like Fred said, if Will picked on me, Fred picked on Will, so I was always protected. If Will gave me in the berry fields, we picked berries. If he gave me a strawberry shampoo, he was going to get strawberry shampoo. We shared love, laughter, hurt, adventure, excitement, and more. We talked often, and he always came out to see us. I'm so proud of the man Will became. As a brother, he had a huge influence on my life. I'm excited to say that when I first started riding bikes in '93, right around that time, I could actually beat him. But for the last 15 years, I ate his dust. But that made me proud of him. I was just so excited to ride with him and his friends. One of my favorite memories of riding with Will was riding into Crested Butte. I mean, you guys live in just a beautiful area. You know, we're riding through this field of wildflowers. Just, you know, the flowers are hitting our handlebars and just hooting and hollering and having a good time. Our soulmate, Bonnie, I'm so sorry. You are an amazing woman. Like my dad said, for him to you know, be leaving here, and you're just an amazing woman. So I just appreciate all your love for him. Our son, Mom and Dad, I can't imagine losing a son. I don't want to ever do that. You two loved, cared, taught, helped him so much. You molded him into the man that he became, and I thank you guys for that. So to say goodbye, I don't want to say goodbye. I'm mad. We don't have more time. But because you're not here, I'm going to honor you. I'm going to learn from you and follow you and do the things that are important to you. Will, I love you. I just wanted to say a real quick prayer too for him, if that's all right. Lord God, we love our brother Will. I pray he's with you, and I pray that I get to see him soon. He was so special to us, and we just love him and are just having such a fun time remembering him. Thank you, God.
We would like to, any more family that would like to come up and speak. If not, we would love to have some friends. Anybody who, don't hold back, folks. If you have something you would like to say, this is a perfect opportunity to speak openly.
Thanks everybody for being here. If somebody had told me 20 years ago that I was going to be standing here today mourning one of my best friends, one of my brothers, I wouldn't have believed it, but here I am. Will and I, Fred, like you said, he always called it straight. Wasn't afraid to tell me when I was being a bad dog owner. He was the first, and he was the last person that told me as we raised Mac Dog. Whether we were standing at the first gondola or hiking out the ridge here to ski a Chair 20 after lunch, or boot packing, breaking trail for the top of Benchmark. Will was amazing. It was energy that I can't describe. Some of you know it. Some of us, we've all experienced it. We've been there side by side. We could all be a hero and we could all be the loser on any given day. And that camaraderie, that passion, that fire that kept us going, that kept us hiking, that kept us riding. Will was right there. And I had somebody tell me, the other day that I met because of Will. She was like, it was impressive to know that 10 years, 15 years later, you guys are all thick as thieves still. Our lives have changed. We've moved on. We've grown up. We've got families. We don't get to see each other the way we used to anymore. But it doesn't change that brotherhood, that feeling. I could trust Will with my life, and I did frequently. And I had, you know, I've had some amazing experiences, whether it was the avalanche on Lime Creek that Mark was there for, or the Great Petunia Brawl of 2011 that Jack and Nikki were there for, or putting a rock in his camelback, which he refused to wear in Cement Creek as we rode all day long. I'm gonna miss Will every day. And I love that man as a brother, as a friend, like I love a lot of everybody here. So as we hike a benchmark, or as we do a chair 26 or race to Simba, a chair 20, we ride up Berry Picker because it's after 5 and we can do that. Live life, you know. We all create our own happiness, and Bonnie, Will was creating that happiness. I could see it in him. As much as I was going to miss that man, if he, you know, that it was the right thing, and I knew it. And hold strong, everybody hold strong, just do what you do, and remember him, and it's okay. I've bawled more in the last week. I have tissues, and I don't know how many times we would look at each other on a bike ride and be like, what do you need, a tissue? So I have one if you need one, okay?
I'm gonna have to read too. All right, so I planned on speaking this as a sort of eulogy, telling everyone about who Will was and introducing you all to the most important people in his life. But I have the feeling you're gonna hear from many of them, so I'm largely gonna skip that part. However, I will say that Will loved his family and friends. He acknowledged that his mom, Carolyn, is one of the sweetest, most supportive, and forgiving mothers of all time. That he wanted to be just like his dad, Gary. That he truly looked up to his brothers, Fred and John, as men, as husbands, and as fathers. And he loved being Uncle Willie to Freya, Forrest, Kellen, and Elias. The 5 days we just spent in Oregon with you all were priceless for both of us. I know you'll hear from many of Will's friends this evening as well, with their hilarious stories from years of getting after it with Will. And though I'm pretty sure all of you guys know it, Bailey, Pastori, the Oregon boys, Jack, Mark, Jimmy, Shannon, Josh, String, Ben, Bo, he loved you guys tremendously. He always spoke about how these friendships meant the world to him, and he considered you all brothers. And to my own brother, Scott, I know that you lost a treasured friend. Despite the fact that you guys bullshitted each other relentlessly, Will often told me how much he genuinely liked you. He was always rooting for you. He was rooting for you on the bike, he was rooting for you at work, he was rooting for you with the ladies. I know the feeling was mutual, and that really meant the world to me. I want to thank everybody for the outpouring of support. It's been overwhelming. The bike community, the Vail community, Vail Resorts, and the Cascade. Your kindness has been boundless, and Will would be floored. So the rest of what I want to say is about who Will was to me. I met Will 5 years ago. My friends and I were going on a bike trip to Crested Butte for my girlfriend Amber's birthday. My brother Scott asked his friend Shannon to come, and Shannon brought his buddy Will. Shannon and Will followed Scott and me on the drive. Will later told me his first thought was, what the hell is that guy doing with that girl? So the first thing I noticed about Will was how cute he was, of course. He was quiet, warm, and had the kindest eyes and smile. I could tell he was used to being outdoors. He was well prepared, self-sufficient, and very minimalistic at the campsite. So he was scoring points in my book already. Then I saw Will ride. Or rather, I saw Will take off and crush the climb we're about to do and not see him again until the end. What mountain girl doesn't love a hot guy who's a badass on a bike? I told my friend Amber that weekend that I was going to date him. I gave Will my phone number the next time we rode, thinking for sure he would memorize it as I shouted it out pedaling. When he finally called, he said it took him a while because he had forgotten the first few digits, and so he called every combination of area codes possible in the railroad to get it right. Our first date was a mountain bike ride, of course. When I told my brother I was going for a ride with that Will guy we had just met, he said, "Oh shit, you better put on your big girl pants." Will and I were inseparable those first years. We traveled to see each other's families, camped a ton, and skied and biked our faces off. Later, career and family brought me to the East Coast, while mountain biking and a job that he really loved kept him here. We tried splitting a couple of times, but it never lasted for more than a few weeks. At the beginning of this year, Will and I had arrived at the point where we would be, where we were ready to close that geographical distance. We'd come to realize that the love we had for each other outweighed jobs and family and friends, and even the trails that Will had grown to love. The plan was for Will to race most of the second enduro race season up through the Crested Butte event. That was his favorite mountain, and he really wanted to win it. We'd both quit our jobs, and I had a one-way ticket to Colorado for August 21st. Our plan was to kick it here for a bit, riding and camping in all of our favorite places, celebrating Scott's and then Will's birthdays, having a ride with Will's romantic friend Shannon, then hitting the road for the East Coast. We were going to move to Burlington, Vermont, where Will was hoping to transfer to another DH&R property, and I hoped to work at UVM Medical Center. To clarify, Will and I weren't yet engaged. Of course, we were psyched to get married and start a family soon. We were ring shopping last week in Hood River, in Oregon. We found a few we liked. Will was looking forward to asking my dad's permission. He really wanted to do it in person once we got back to the East Coast. He told me he couldn't wait to marry me, which made me insane with happiness. I loved Will for so many reasons. I can't recall a single argument we ever had. He was the best communicator. If something upset one of us, it was a conversation and then it was done. We brought out the best in each other. I am certain I was my most genuine, authentic, and best self when I was with Will, and he with me. Will always tried to be the best person he could. He looked up to a lot of other people for this. His dad, his brothers, friends, and colleagues at work. Russ, John Garth, Pastori, you guys taught him more than you'll ever know when you were working together. Anytime I took a class, which I was always taking, be it leadership development or public speaking, or even yoga or Ayurvedic medicine courses, Will would read the books right behind me and immediately put them into practice, reminding me to do the same. He enjoyed learning, growing, and trying to be the best person and the best partner to me that he possibly could. Will was the embodiment of gratitude. He often said he had a great life. He consciously acknowledged how fortunate he was to have the friendships that meant so much to him. His family, his work, his coworkers, me, and of course the freedom and ability he had to spend time outdoors. This was truly his church. As fast as Will rode, he also took more time than anyone I know to stop and smell the roses. I have a phone full of photos he would send me. A beautiful meadow, a scenic vista, his amazing camp spot, the swimming hole he spent the whole afternoon in. The outdoors and riding represented something different to Will than it does to most people. He didn't ride to exercise or to race other people. He did it to feel alive, to feel his legs pump, his lungs work, his heart beat, to take in the beauty around him, to appreciate and celebrate all that life has to offer. I thought this was one of his most amazing qualities. He was also among the most humble of people. He would admit to riding a bike, but he would never tell someone how good he was. He used to log times on Strava in like secret stealth mode. Never reveal who he was. We would hear people talking about him. He'd be embarrassed as hell by all of this, for sure. I am 100% certain he had no idea of the impact he had on this world. And I'll never be able to say enough about how good Will was to me. He loved me desperately, and this I know. He made it beautifully and abundantly clear to me every day. He treated me like gold, and I desperately loved him in return. It brings me some amount of solace to know that he knew this. He'd tell me how happy I made him, how thankful he was for it. I'm truly glad that we were as expressive to each other as we were. I am devastated beyond words that Will is gone. I have a really hard time seeing beyond my own overwhelming sense of loss. But I know that when Will died, he was never happier. He had everything that he wanted. He was doing what he loved, and he was positively elated about the future ahead of us, the leap we were going to make in only a number of days after that race. I feel like the luckiest person on the planet that I was his girl. I pray that Will walks with me, or better yet, rides with me, every minute for all the rest of my days. If you can hear me, Will, I want you to know that I love you completely, with my entire heart and soul. And I am so, so, so tremendously proud to have been your girlfriend. Oh, wait, hold on. And also, Will, I heard that you got me a bike. And I heard that you've been working on it for months and you finished it last week. And I thank you very much for that. And it is actually better than a ring.
Anybody else would like to speak? John Bailey is making his way up. John?
All right. It smells sweaty like on a warm summer day. I would love this. Love to be here. All right, I too had to write, and I started writing a book. So you're gonna bear with me. Will didn't mind waiting for me, so y'all can wait. I'm John Bailey, and tremendously proud to say I had a friend, Will Olson. We're here for a celebration of Will's life. If there ever was a person who knew how to celebrate life, it was Will. I had the pleasure of meeting Will Olson for the first time 19 years ago when he first moved to Vail and started working with me at Charles Inn. It took me a year to spell his hometown and correctly pronounce it, and another year. Will found his place in the mountains. I'm kind of reiterating a lot of stuff that Bonnie had said here, I think. Will found his place in the mountains with his lifestyle and the outdoor sports and dirt that he pursued. First, Will was a reliable, hardworking employee, then a riding and skiing buddy. In time, Will grew into much more than that. He became part of my family. I'm fortunate to say my three sons grew up camping biking and skiing with Will. His zest for life was inspirational to us all. Every time I would tell Will about some mischief one of my sons got into, he'd come back with a better story of his youth. Will really had his act together now. You know, financially, physically, mentally, he was at peace with himself. He was ready to take on the Green Mountains of Vermont. My son Johnny, who's up in Montana, told me he was beyond grateful. Will was such a big part of his life. I think everyone here has the same feelings of how fortunate and blessed we are to have experienced Will in our lives. Will had a tremendous love for his family, often talking about their children and travels. I would hear about John, Fred constantly. He did have that passion. He did have that. He would just light up. This past years with my sons out of the house, Bonnie in Boston, his man friends Shannon and Mike out of the valley. Will and I spent a lot of time riding bikes, backcountry skiing. You think it was hard going for a ride with Will, trying doing intervals. He was a talented in all outdoor sports, but he did work hard at being the best he could. He took his mountain biking racing seriously, let his riding doing the talking for him. Will trained hard for his racing. Always worked on his bikes when he wasn't breaking them. If you've ever always wondered who that fast guy is, that Will guy on Strava kicking your butt, well, now you know. Will would train year-round for sports. Anytime you want to go for a ride with Will, you know he's ready to go. And all you're really going to be doing is chasing Will around the mountains. He would ride with that smile on his face, cleaning the uncleanable lines with ease. He enjoyed mentoring and teaching the younger riders on the tough course sections. Then he would smile as he dropped them. Will could slow it down. He enjoyed reading novels, had a wide range of musical taste. He got pleasure from skunking me and Josh in cribbage. During this week, I've been compiling notes from numerous emails, phone calls, texts. Same overwhelming thread. What a great guy Will was. We all know that Will was a gifted mountain biker, snowboarder, skier. Will was much more than that. I just remember his infectious smile. You know that smile Will would have after a great trail ride or a huge powder day. Will seemed recently at peace with himself. He was so excited for the new chapter in his life to begin with his true love, Bonnie. The morning after Jack and I picked up Will's truck in Crested Butte, Jack was sleeping in the back of the truck, Will's truck. Will's cell phone went off at 5 a.m., vibrating the whole truck. Will's alarm went off every day at 5 a.m. Whether he was working or not, he would get up and call Bonnie on her way to work as it was 7 a.m. East Coast time. Will really enjoyed mountain biking in Crested Butte. It was a holy grail of biking. Will crashed in a beautiful place in the mountains with wild flowers and a creek. When he crashed, mentally, he was in a great place. I think he was in Vermont, next to Bonnie, dancing in his Birkenstocks, tapping maple syrup. I feel when Will went down, he was content with his heart full for Bonnie. Will thrill, Will the thrill, and thrill spice. Will electrified the room when he entered. He made us all feel very excited and happy. Friends, we're all here so fortunate to have experienced the thrill of knowing Will Olson. Every time you hang out with Will, whether on an all-day mountain bike excursion, powder day in the mountain, backcountry skiing, playing cribbage, just hanging out having a beer, it was always a thrill to be with him. He gave us so many thrills on his biking and snowboarding and skiing feats that seemed unreal. I hope heaven is ready for the Will thrill. We do know Will left us doing what he loves, in the place he loves, thinking of the lady he loves more than anything. Will, we love you. You've touched so many lives, more than you'll ever know.
Great. Got some kind words.
I don't know if I can top that. That was good, Mr. Bailey. Hi, folks. My name's Jack, for those of you who don't know. And I was a friend of Will's. We grew up together. We played Little League, and we went to the same high school in Scappoose, Oregon. Jimmy, Mark, Will, and myself, and some other friends started riding bikes. We lived together in Mount Hood with Jimmy in '94. They told me I couldn't live there if I was a skier. So I learned how to snowboard. Then we moved to Idaho for the summer. We met this guy named Kevin Stringer, some of us know him as. Will came for the first 2 weeks and camped out with us until we got jobs, and he headed back to Oregon. And then he went back to Mount Hood and lived in Mount Hood again with Red, a friend of ours, Josh Stebbins. And we were silly enough to come to October and met this guy named John Bailey on October 21st, 1995. Yeah. And anyway, we worked for Bailey in the summer and we rented bikes, and then Willie came in September of '96. I quit my job and rode for a month, and then rent came. I had to call my mom and dad. We had a fun time riding. We had a fun month. And anyway, so then that's when the fun started. When he moved here, biking and snowboarding for 19 years. And later, here we are. Getting to meet with some of Will's friends last night, hear stories, stokes me out. See how many people loved Will and were able to meet him and share a smile like we all did. We've all been talking about that smile. It was a good one. So anyway, Willie to me was in the prime of his life, and the happiest I've ever seen him. And he was starting a new chapter in his life with Bonnie. It was the best thing that ever happened to him. I swear to God. So anyway, thanks to everybody for coming out and supporting Will and Bonnie's families. That means the world to us. And one more thing in closing. We're here to celebrate a life of a man who was a brother, a boyfriend, an uncle. He was everything. And Willie, my friend, I will always miss you, my brother. I love you, and I'll always ride my bike. Thank you, everybody.
Anybody else like to speak? Mr. Pastori. Another legend on two wheels, ladies and gentlemen.
Is that Will's crutch from his liver laceration, or
Which laceration?
It could be any one of them, Mike.
I mean, who really lacerates their liver going up there? Who does that? But that's just who he was. That's how hard he charged. That was Will. He went big going up, down, sideways. It didn't matter. When I heard that story, I was just like, what? Lacerated your liver? Where were you at? What trail were you ripping down? No, dude, I was climbing on North Trail. Still to this day, just don't get that at all. But that's what he was. That's who Will is. I've been his friend for as long as I've been in Vail, and I cherish each and every moment of it. So many of his friends are here today, and we're all really close friends. Some of us have moved away, some of us are still around. Willie was the one who was still around, and it's because of his love for this right here. And I know all of us, when we made a decision to leave Vail, it was not an easy one. It certainly wasn't an easy one for me, and look at me, I'm back here again right now. I moved to Vermont for a short period of time, and knowing in the back of my mind, and Will knew it the time he said it, he used to make fun of me almost on a daily basis. He'd say to me, "Hey Mike, how's maple syrup out there? You want to send me some maple syrup in a water bottle?" All the while saying this, that he knew damn well he was going out to be with Bonnie.
I had a really good idea in my mind. That's what was happening. My wife Maria, she knew it. I think Bonnie knew it. And that was kind of we all of us were pretty excited about that potential of all of us ended up out there. And it didn't go down that way. Genetically, I wasn't given a brother, but I was blessed with Will Olson as probably the best brother anybody could ever have. Will's beard, that thing was impressive. I'm kind of growing some scruff right now. I couldn't grow a beard like Will had. I could not shave for 2 years. And I have nothing remotely close to that. And after 4 or 5 days, my wife would say to me, she's like, "Oh, you're just trying to look like Will. You just want to be like Will." And no, I don't. Will's just a hairy hippie. I don't want to be like Will. But ultimately, I did. I wanted nothing more than to be just like Will. I looked up to him for thousands of reasons. The man he was, the rider he was. I mean, that dude crushed it on the bike. He'd get off his couch and just put the screws to me. I'd be training for months and months and months and reading magazines and trying to eat right and lift weights and God knows what Will was doing, eating Cheetos, sitting on the couch, sitting in the back of his truck. First ride we'd go on, he just dropped me. And yeah, he was really amazing in that respect. Will does, without question, the love he has for Bonnie, some of the things he's shared with me over the last couple of years. Were really inspirational. They helped me as a person just because of who Will was. His words made me think about some of the decisions I have done in the past. And he made me want to be a better person just because of who he was and the things he shared with me. And yeah, the wedding ring, the engagement ring was on its way, that's for sure. But it was about a month ago, he and I started working on trying to figure out what bike he was going to get Bonnie. And Will, he trusted me, I think, when it came to bike decisions, and we mulled over many different brands and many different websites and spent a ton of time trying to figure out what we were going to get her, what he was going to get her, excuse me. And ultimately, we figured it out, and it was a total secret. And Bonnie, that bike will be here really, 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 really soon. And you're going to be blown away by it. In my opinion, I don't think there's a better mountain bike for a woman on the planet. Especially, you talk about how he charges, and we know how much of a badass Will is on a bike, but let's not forget, Bonnie McDonald, you shred on a bike too, okay? a special woman, and I'm honored to have been able to call Will my friend for the last 16, 17 years. I'm honored to have you as a friend, Bonnie. I think we're all here because of the impact Will made on each and every one of us. All of us may not have known him forever, all of us may not have known him at all, but I think we've heard of him. We've heard stories about the Will Olson. You've probably seen his name on Strava. Who is this guy? How come he's king of the mountain on every damn Strava marker from Bowman's Shortcut down to, Mike's Night Out in Eagle. He owned them all. And it really got to a point with Will. He told me one night, he's like, man, this Strava thing is starting to get to me. It's kind of a testament to how he was. I think Bo, to quote what he said the other day in one of the articles, he was a silent assassin. He was so unassuming. You'd have no idea just by looking at Will. If you walked past us right now, we were here doing something else, you would have absolutely no idea that man, at age 40, is without doubt one of the best mountain bikers in the state of Colorado. It's that simple. He just didn't have that outward appearance. He certainly never spoke of it that way. It's just not who he was. And this Strava thing, he told me one night, he's like, dude, it's getting out of control, and people are hitting me with a Strava, and they're asking me these questions, and it's starting to bug me, and I'm going to start hiding my rides. And there's a way you can make your rides private. And he started doing that, and he made it private for everyone. And I couldn't see his rides. And that pissed me off. And I kept telling him, I was like, dude, I don't care who you block. You block everybody, but you better unblock me, man, because I need to see your rides. I need to see what you're doing. And he wouldn't budge. He didn't give in. He stayed true, and I don't know, something flipped one night, and next thing you know, he was public again, if you will. And there's a couple markers out there that I know he had his sights set on, and he'd call me and be like, dude, I missed it by a second tonight. 1 second. And then the very next day he'd go back out 2 seconds, and he'd always have some reason as to why. And I would just laugh at him and be like, you're not going to get it, you're not going to get it. And I was like, it's okay, man, you already have 57 others. Don't worry about that one. It's not a big deal. I wrote down a bunch of things too. I don't know that I'll really kind of get into most of them. One thing, funny story, it was touched upon a bit in an article, but it was misquoted a bit, and there are a few individuals here from the Cascade that I think know this story intimately. I started when I moved here as a room service waiter at the Vail Cascade. Russ Creaney was kind enough to hire me, and I kind of worked my way up through the ranks at the Vail Cascade, and Will and Ben Stein and Jimmy Mortensen and Jack. I don't know if you were in banquets at the time. If I'm missing anybody else, I can't remember. I don't know if Stringer, you were there too, but of course, Mark Riedemeyer. Jacuzzi. It was called Jacuzzi, but maybe we can talk about that after hours. But, Jacuzzi was there. And my bosses were Ross and a gentleman named Steven, otherwise known as Steb DePalma. Will and I were pretty good friends. We became pretty good friends at the time, and he used to come into the room service area and hang around and chat a lot. One day, Steb, Russ's very, very, very good friend, he looked at me and he was dead serious when he said this to me. There was not the hint of a smile in his face at all when he said, "All right, dude, your friend cannot come back here until he showers." And that was because he was living on the side of the hill. And I told Bill that, and he laughed his ass off, and he thought it was the funniest thing around, and I thought it was hysterical. And I laughed at Steb when he said, and I was like, "He's coming down here anytime he wants, man. That's my friend." And Russ kind of got into it, and he thought it was funny, but Steb was serious. He was that guy. He's like, "No, dude, I'll close the door. I'll throw that kid out the window." That's just kind of who he was. Will was an awesome, awesome guy, and he was my brother, and I will sorely, sorely miss him. But to end on a very, very positive note, I think some people are aware of it, most certainly, but Carolyn, Gary, I'd like to let you know and sort of announce, everybody kind of knows how Will got into the enduro scene recently. I had been one of the people, who really wanted him to start racing, just because I knew his potential. Will always said, no, I'm a soul rider. Remember how many times, guys? That's all he ever said. "I'm a soul rider. I'm not paying to ride my bike. No way. I'm not paying." Well, I finally got him to race. And just as I knew he would, he crushed it. In his very first race ever, he beat me. He got first and I got second, and I could not have been happier. And very, very, very quickly, over the last year and a half, 2 years, Will developed a fair amount of friends in the enduro racing community. And a guy that we met last year, at the very top of stage 1 at the Snowmass Enduro last year, Will and I were up there waiting to get started, and a dude rolled up to us and just started chatting. He was really, really nice, and he looked legit, as we would call it, meaning, he looked like he was a really solid rider. And he just started chatting it up with Will and I. And Will's far more outgoing and approachable than I am, and I kind of sat back and listened to the conversation and then chimed in when it was appropriate. Well, this guy's name is D. Tidwell, and he's a formidable racer himself. Runs an enduro training program down in Denver. Today is Thursday, and on Tuesday afternoon, he began a GoFundMe project, operation, however you like to call it, that began on Tuesday at about 10 or 11 a.m. And the goal for this was to raise $20,000 to help Carolyn and Gary with the expenses and the costs of everything that goes along with the loss of such a wonderful man. And I could stand here before you right now, and as of 10 minutes ago, when I checked my phone, the mountain bike community had raised $19,800 for Will and his family in really less than 2 short days. And if that isn't a testament to the impact he made on people he didn't even know, I don't know what is. So I think that's awesome. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
That's Mike Pastore. Thanks, Mike. This is getting hard to come up here after everybody speaks. Any other friends have something to say? If you do, we still have time. We can move over to Eagle's Nest to the 3rd floor. Food and beverage will be available. Yes.
I'd like to just stop and thank John Bailey, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason why we all ended up riding and learning to ride and love to ride is that man right there, and he's kept us together, and he's done so much for us. And I want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate you and our love for you. Okay?
So yeah, let's take this big old package of love and warmth we have. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, my name's Paul Dyke, and I was here when we had the Northwest Invasion, when we had Stringer and Will and Ben and Mark and Zern all show up in '95 looking for ski jobs, wanting to live the dream in Colorado. And as it turns out, some of the guys worked for Johnny, some of the guys worked for me, and it didn't matter that we skied 125 days a year. We always looked forward to the spring and fall mountain bike trips. And you know, I was a little bit older than those fellas, but I always, you know, guided or marked my fitness based on how I, you know, could ride with them. I was a middle pack guy. But I'll never forget when you watched Will ride. It was so graceful. It was so effortless. It didn't matter whether it was up or down. And that explains why he excelled in enduro, because you have to be able to do both fast. But I'll never forget, we were on a trip in North Dakota called the Monda Hay Trail. And there was 12 of us, and Johnny's friends from South Dakota did the shuttle and you know, made it so we could do the ride. I'll never forget, on the last day, a 54-mile ride, and again, I'm a middle pack guy, and I looked up and I saw Will, you know, across a basin. And I'm like, can I even think about it? And I did. And I did what Will did. I stood up. Will could climb standing like you wouldn't believe. When you were hurting and suffering, doing everything you're supposed to do, spinning, Will would just stand up and drop you. He'd be gone. And so as I approached Will, I did that, thinking I was a tough guy. And what's so cool is he gave it to me. He said, "Elmer, you're on fire." And I know to the bottom of my soul that he could have stood up and crushed me and dropped me like a bad habit. But he didn't. He gave me, for all, you know, we're all here because we like to ski, we love to bike. I mean, we look around where we ride, where we climb, where we ski, and the ease and the grace with which Will was able to do all that, we can only hope to be like Will on our best day.
Yeah, come on up. Introduce yourself.
This will be short. My name is Lorinda. I work with Will at the Cascade and love Will dearly and want his family to know that. He'd come in on Monday morning and we'd chat and he'd start telling me about his race. And then he'd tell me how fast he was going and I'd say, "Will, I didn't ask you, I don't want to know." It scares the hell out of me. Don't tell me. I didn't hear the news until Sunday afternoon. I was at lunch down in Denver with a friend, and it's a shock. And I just bowed my head, and I said, Lord, please be as welcoming to Will as he's always been to us. And I spent the whole day Sunday trying to process it and accept the reality of it, and it just was hard to do. But I thought about Will, and what was it I loved about Will? Will was a gentleman. He was in every true sense of the word. It's a word we don't use much anymore. You probably hardly hear of anyone referred to as a gentleman, and especially somebody with all the wild man stories that there are about Will. But he truly was a gentleman. I never, and I spent much time with him, never heard an unkind word come out of his mouth, ever. 2 winters ago, a bunch of us from the Cascade went to a party on the mountain. We barbecue, maybe a little drinking. It got to the end of the day, and the ski patrol came by. I don't even remember where we were, but we were way up there somewhere. And they said, we're doing our last sweep, and you're on your own. And we just kept partying. And so when it did finally come time to go, I wasn't feeling good for some reason. I wasn't. And I'm old. You could see that I'm old. And I was really going slow. And of course, all these other dudes just took off. Boom, they're gone. And Will stayed behind. And I knew Will could have been down that mountain in about 30 seconds. And I wasn't going to manage that. And I said, Will, I'm going to be okay. You just go. I just go. And I kept insisting that he go. And he said, okay. And he'd wait for me to go down, and I'd ski down, and it took me a while, and then he'd zoom down and stop, and then I'd ski down. He walked me all the way down that mountain, would not let me go. So I miss you, Will. And as your family, you got to know you done good.
Anybody else while we're here? It's a beautiful night. It's outstanding. More. Yeah, come on up, please. 2. It's going to be a race to the mic.
My daughter was pushing for me to come up here, only because I have a real quick story. Last night I wrote down Leesway. Some of you guys might know it. But I asked Will to go with me, and holy crap, I was able to clear the first 3 jumps, and halfway through I was like, okay, Will, back off. But I just wanted to invite all of you to invite him on your rides, because he wants to go, and he's right there with you. That's it.
More good stories. Coming up, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Colin Godby. I really debated standing up and talking today, but I think I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't. I met Will about 2 months ago at Snow and Mass. My wife and I, we just moved out to Colorado, and we don't really have friends out here, but I've been doing enduro racing out in California, where we're from, and I wanted to get into it. And so at Snowmass I entered, and it became quickly apparent that there's some really fast dudes out here. And on the first stage in Aspen, I was riding blind because I don't know any of the trails, and I saw a couple insane times, and I was just like, man, what's the story? And so I just kind of started talking with the guys, and none of the conversations really stuck, except for talking with Will. And he was one of the fastest dudes, but he had no problem talking to the new guy and giving him some tips. And so for the rest of the weekend, I was kind of bugging him, like, what's the story about this trail? I've never ridden it. What should I? And he would tell me. I'm his direct competitor, but he would tell me what to look out for, and what the gotchas were and all that stuff. And so we kind of became kind of fast friends in the racing scene. And I didn't get his number, but come Keystone, I looked around and I found him. And again, he was there and offering up tips. Hadn't ridden Keystone either. And we most of the stages he beat me, but one or two I got him by a couple seconds, and didn't matter. He's still giving me the tips. And then he ended up breaking his bike later on the weekend in Keystone, and he's like, I just gotta go, my brake's falling apart, it's just bleeding everywhere, and I gotta get up there. So he races up and he jumps in line, and I'm on the lift, and I see Will coming down under the lift, and he's like mixed in with the amateur guys because his bike was broken, he just got to finish. And the whole way he's just skidding his rear brake down the super steep stuff under the lift because he had no front brake, and he just had to finish. And so I yell out, I'm like, finish strong, Will. And that's all that I saw him for that weekend. At the last minute, I got an entry into Crested Butte through a friend who had dropped out. And again, I show up Wednesday evening, Thursday, go out for practice, and I find Will and just start chatting it up with him. And it turns out he's camping kind of down the creek a little bit out, and I was like, we're camping in town, it's free, it's a good spot, we can ride to the venue. And in that evening after practice, we see start times and start figuring everything out. And sure enough, come Friday, I find that Will's moved camp over towards us. And we start chatting it up Friday morning and grab breakfast together and ride the shuttle bus up together. And it was a brutal day. We started off with a water crossing where we had to take our shoes off. It was 8 in the morning and it was freezing cold and it was up to your knees. We're carrying our bikes, and it's just a really good environment. Everyone pedaling up to the top of Dock Park. And again, I didn't know the trails. And I asked Will, and Will gives me the tips. And so between Dock Park and the second stage is a really big transfer and a lot of work, and we had to hike our bikes a lot and it's put a toll on the body. And we drop in for the second stage, and I knew it was shorter but still really tough. It had a climb, and midway through the stage I'm on the climb and I see someone in front of me, and it was Will. And I catch him just barely at the top of the climb, and I say, pin it, Will. And he gives it the gas on the down, and he just lets loose, and I'm chasing him through the dust, and he made a little mistake, and I got by him. At the bottom, he was kind of crushed, and he's like, I've never been passed before, man. I'm like, I'm sorry. But he was having big issues on Friday. He had some cramps, and he was like, I'm gonna make it through. So we got back to camp, and he's like, I'm gonna go to bed soon. It's like 7. And I was like, okay, we're going for food, decide I'll take the friendship to the next level and ask him out to dinner. And he's like, no, I'm going to bed. So he went to bed about 8 o'clock, and we went out with my wife and I, and we got food. And the next morning, wake up, and it was a beautiful morning with mist kind of settled across the field. And I see him, and he's kind of ready in his puffy jacket. I'm like, how are you feeling, dude? He rested up, and he's like, I feel excellent. Like, I feel so good. I'm like, awesome. Like, let's go do this. Another big day ahead of us. And so we get off the bus, and it's a huge transfer to the top of Star Pass. And I was like, I was looking at it like it's kind of like a give and a take. On big races, you have kind of energy deposits and withdrawals, and I was like, I'm gonna take it easy, but I didn't see Will all that transfer stage. I get to the top, and he's just like hanging out, resting. I kick back, and he had been there for a while, and I said, "Man, what's the story?" He's like, "I feel so good." And he's like, "My legs are there." And I'm like, "Awesome." And so we're all waiting, and then the master's men set off, and D was one of the guys, and I yell out for D because I've been doing a little bit of training with him, and I said, "D, keep it clean." And D goes off and he wrecks within 100 yards. And so Will looks at me, he's like, "Don't say anything." So we line up and the top of stage 3, and Will was focused, but he was smiling, and we're still giving high fives, and he went, and they told me, they started counting down for me, and I looked down the stage and I couldn't see him. He was just gone. He is so fast. About 3/4 of the way down the stage, I came around a corner and my life changed forever. And I want everyone to know that he was with loving, caring hands, and through it all, we all just wouldn't let go of his hand or stop touching him. And we gave it everything. And we tried really hard, and I'm confident that he's out there now and riding the best single track in the sky. And I can't wait to see him up there and just give him another high five, I guess. And I want to make sure I thank everyone else that was there and helping, because they did an amazing job. There was nothing, like, everyone was just the best. So thank you, and God bless the family, and I'm so sorry for the loss.
I think we needed to hear that. Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? If not, let's move over to Eagle's Nest, and we will head up to the 3rd floor. We've got a slideshow, we've got food and beverage, we've got a lot of love in this crowd, so let's keep that rolling. Really good stories, everybody. Thanks for coming up and talking. And let's keep the warmth and the love going. No handshakes, all hugs, everybody. We'll see you over there.